Thank you for that introduction. Thank you to Harry, who always faithfully and expertly runs the tech, and thank you all for being here. I like when I begin here scrolling through the faces. I like to see who's here, and I'm delighted and heartened by the fact that I see a lot of smiles. I know it's mostly because of Mark at the moment, but it's good that you're here and able to smile. And the brief teaching that I want to share with you today as we lead into meditation, that too, meditation is partly about what sustains us in tough times. I always thank you, Harry, for putting the link to the study sheet in the chat, which he's going to pull up. I always want to dive too deeply into text, and really the main point of this is the contemplative practice. But we are in Parshat Beshalach, starting on Shabbat. As Mark mentioned, this is Shabbat Shirah, the Shabbat of song, and it is also probably one of the most eventful and consequential parshiot in the entire Torah, and it's timely. Remarkably timely in a sort of almost creepy way. Among the things that happen in this Torah portion are that Joseph's bones get brought out of Egypt, that the Israelites move to the sea. The sea is split. The Egyptians are swallowed by a miraculous natural event caused through Moshe's direction, essentially, by the hand of God, shortly after which the Israelites begin complaining about their fate. And we know how deeply human this kind of behavior is, that despite manifold blessings, our memories are very short, and things can quickly begin to seem desperate, even in the midst of in the midst of tremendous change, which is always destabilizing, uncertain, and contingent. And briefly, we're going to look at a couple of shorashim, a couple of three-letter roots in the Hebrew language. You don't need to know Hebrew, I hope, in order to understand just what I'm trying to draw your attention to. Because when there is similarity between three-letter roots, there's often a message that is being given to us through the language. So I've pulled out a couple of sections of this Torah portion to guide us into our meditation. One of the first things I want to mention about how timely this is that it's so interesting that Joseph's bones are brought up out of Egypt. In the same week we read about this, that the remains of the last hostage were brought out of Gaza. Lots of times there's resonances between events, current events, and Torah in ways that can help us reflect on our current condition. And that's true now because the Israelites are guided strongly, but through a radically contingent and uncertain situation. Very similar in some respects, resonant in many respects to the situation we find ourselves in now. So Harry has pulled up the sheet, and I just want to call your attention to a couple of things. So this first verse, Exodus 13, verses 18 and 19, I'll read in English. So God led the people round about by way of the wilderness at the Sea of Reeds. Now the Israelites went up chamushim, armed, out of the land of Egypt. A lot of commentary about that word. We won't spend time on it today. And Moses took with him the bones of Joseph, who had exacted an oath from the children of Israel, saying, God will be sure to take notice of you, then you shall carry up my bones from here with you. Now, the word for bone in Hebrew, etzem, is also the word for an essence. So in a way, what Joseph is also saying on a deeper, more spiritual level, the message conveyed to us at any rate, can be that the Israelites have to take the essence of Joseph out of Egypt with them. And one thing we can say about Joseph was that he frequently understood his strength, his wisdom, and his ability to move mountains to a divine source. He was proud and somewhat vain, apparently, but he was also capable of understanding that there were forces larger than him that guided his action. Harry, if you can scroll down a little bit, we'll look at the next longer quote. The Israelites react with fear when they see the Egyptians coming after them. And they say, well, let us be, and we will serve the Egyptians. For it is better for us to serve the Egyptians than to die in the wilderness. Lots of times when things are hard, you simply want to go back to the way things were. If you can keep scrolling down, Harry. But Moses said to the people, have no fear and witness the deliverance that God will work for you today. For the Egyptians whom you see today, you will never see again. God will do battle for you. Hold your peace. And God says to Moses, and I'm paraphrasing here, why are you pointing at me? Tell the Israelites to go forward. This is a moment for action, not for dependence and prayer. The Hebrew word that God uses here, Vayomer, I'm sorry, I'm losing my place here a second. God says, tell the Israelites to go forward. And the word for going forward, anusa, has the root nun, vav, samech. This root indicates forward movement, but it also is the root for the word to tremble. And the deep message here is that there is a relationship between forward movement under pressure and fear. It is a natural consequence of uncertainty. And we see it again in the next verse, where it says, God locked the wheels of the chariots so that they moved forward with difficulty. And the Egyptians said, let us flee from the Israelites. Vayomer Mitzrayim anusa mipnei Yisrael. There again is the word. So moving forward shares that same three-letter root that can be translated as fleeing. So we're in a time when we feel, many of us, as if the ground is shifting under our feet. There is radical uncertainty that can lead to fear. What we're going to center our meditation on today, which I didn't include in the teaching, is another thing that appears in this Torah portion, and that is the pillar of cloud and the pillar of fire that guide the Israelites by day and by night as they move from Egypt across the sea through the desert into their wanderings. In the first quote I showed you, God leads people by a less dangerous route away from potential combat, but a more arduous route through rugged nature. And the teaching here in the shared route between trembling and forward movement teaches us that we cannot always see what's going to be, but forward motion is necessary anyway. And in this Torah portion, this hugely eventful Torah portion, we are guided by cloud and by fire, by the in-breath, the cloud and the fire, the out-breath of expelled carbon dioxide. This constant renewal process teaches us that every external event has an internal correlate in Jewish teaching. We are going to focus in our meditation on the internal correlate, on the cloud and the fire that guide us every day in the form of the breath. And the word that is used at the beginning of the song at the sea, the divine name is Yah, the sound that can be used both for in-breath and out-breath. And the song, one of its first verses, begins, Ozi v'zimrat Yah vayehi li Yeshua. Yah is my strength and might and has become my deliverance. And when it then says, Ve'anvehu Elohei avi ve'aromemenhu, the anvehu is a root that means the enshrining or the building of a sacred container. So here, the internal correlate of the external events is the building of a sacred container for the breath. That thing which is old but new, which is always different but always the same, which connects us all the way back to the very earliest moments of conscious biological life, the ability to renew through inspiration and expiration. And that's what we're going to focus on now. So I want you to gather yourself, lower your gaze, center your seat to the extent that you're able. Focus gently on your breathing. When your mind wanders, as it will, return to thinking, just imagining briefly to guide yourself back into the meditation of the in-breath as the pillar of cloud, the out-breath as the pillar of fire, and your entire body as the ark for this divine presence. In the honor of Shabbat Shirah, I hope it's not too shocking or unpleasant, but I will sing us into this meditation. Ozi v'zimrat yah vayehi lishua. Ozi v'zimrat yah vayehi lishua. The last minute or so of this meditation, refocus on the pillar of cloud of the in-breath, the pillar of fire of the out-breath, the sacred container of your body, and hold it gently through this journey through the uncertain ways of forward motion that we call life. With each breath, you are enshrining Yah in a sacred container and moving forward not alone, but with each and all of us. With fortitude. And gently return your focus to this assemblage of beautiful people on your screen. And thank you for attending.
Thank you for guiding us so beautifully, David, and friends for being here to create this community of practice. And we seal that practice as we do each day. We offer an opportunity for you, those of you who are in mourning, if you're observing a yard site, if it's your custom to join in the mourner's Kaddish, to do so. And we offer an opportunity for those of you who are not reciting Kaddish to provide support for those who are by creating a minyan of comfort for them. You could put the name or names of anyone you're honoring or holding in your heart today in the chat. Now we're after you recite Kaddish. Harry will share the words of the mourner's Kaddish on the screen. And if you're joining me, please rise in body or in spirit. You can unmute at this time. Yit Gadal, Yit Kadash, Shemei Rabbah. Hayeh B'chol Beit Yisrael, Hagalah B'zman Karib, Yisrael Hey Shmei
Shmei
Rabba
Rabba
Mevorach,
Mevorach, Yelam Udolmei Olamiyah,
Yisbarach, Tahar,
Tadar Mitzalel Kabar
Shalom,
Shad
Shemei Rabba,
Milan Kol Hakadosh
Olam,
Tad Tad
Birchata,
Shlamarada Mande Amar
Bratzata,
Amen
Menorah,
Shlamarada Shemaya Shalava Amen Yisrael Jamel
Chaim
Bimama
Aleinu,
Yasinu Bivu Oyisrael Betadal
Shalom Imamav,
Amen
Shalom Aleinu, Kol Yisrael, Yakol Yisrael,
Amen.
Friends, thanks so much for joining us today. I want to thank Harry Gilboa for holding our space beautifully as always, and David Gottlieb for leading us so beautifully to move into Shabbat Shirah, Parshat Bishalach. And as always, you're invited to stay on with us. You can either continue to sit with the beautiful guidance that David offered, that framing that he offered. You can turn off the sound on your device. We'll be here for another 15 minutes or so. You can continue, extend your sit if you like, or join us for conversation. And if you do that and would like to ask a question, please write question all in caps in the chat, and I'll try to work your question into the conversation. Also want to thank Audrey Weil for sponsoring today's practice in loving memory of her mom, Elizabeth Shore, Leah Bat Aharon Frida, Zichrona Livracha. May her memory be a blessing. Thank you so much, Audrey. And I'll keep an eye on the chat. David, thanks so much. Such a rich I'm going to try to see what's left of my memory to go back over the last couple of days on the daily set where, the story, the narrative of the Israelites at the sea formed the template for our mindfulness meditation practice each day, a little bit differently and beautifully. 2 days ago, Rabbi Jenny Solomon led us and focused on Moses's instructions to the people to be still, to focus on Hayom, on the moment,
Mm.
to ground themselves basically as a way of dealing with their fears. And then yesterday, Chloe Zelka also offered us, and now I can't remember the specifics, it'll come to me maybe, but also the same template. So I'd like to kind of retrace the steps of the journey that you mapped out for us through the Parsha there, of getting to the sea and moving through the sea as a metaphor. And when we say metaphor, we don't mean that in a way that diminishes it. The metaphors really represent reality on the deeper, more ineffable level, right?
Right.
It's like poetry pointing us to a truth. So we
Right.
say something is just a metaphor, or it's just a myth. We mean really the opposite. That really is a clue. Now we're really talking here when we talk about a metaphor. So we're talking about the reality of a journey that meditation gives us some awareness of or insight into, that is always going on, like I said, through difficult times,
Mhm.
and we says that, well, like every moment is a difficult time, really.
Right. Right.
We're just more aware of it at other times, right? So, um, so I want to retrace the steps. And please help me out here, okay? Because there were lots. They were all wonderful.
Yeah.
Um,
I'm really focusing, like you said, on the deeper instructions that in some ways the Hebrew language provides us, for the connection between every internal feeling or emotion
mhm,
and every external action. For every narrative that there is in Torah, there's an internal, meaning sort of psycho-spiritual or psychological correlate to ways that we can guide ourselves. That's why part of the reason why Judaism has such a rich ethical tradition too. And when Moses says to the people, watch the deliverance that God will work for you today. And then God says, Vayomer Hashem el Moshe, Ma hitzak elai, daber el bnei Israel, vayas'u, go forward. But that root, nun vav samech of the word yasu, not only means to move, to get going, but it also shares the root with the word for fear and trembling. And it appears several times in this Torah portion, not only with respect to the Israelites, but with the respect to the Egyptians as well. When there's
right.
intense action, there's motion, but there's also radical uncertainty. And when you combine that with the image of the pillar of cloud and the pillar of fire guiding the Israelites by day and by night, you realize that you're being given, or there's the opportunity at any rate to discover a
Mhm,
profound meditation about the connection between staying aware of breath and moving through uncertainty. And I think this is evident here, especially because of the song at the sea and saying, Ozi v'zimrat Yah. God, Yah is not only my strength, but my song, as it were. The in breath and out breath are foundations of strength through radically uncertain times. Now, I'm not saying that that's what the author or authors of the Torah had in mind, but as we know, Torah has multiple facets. And just as it's remarkable to read about the bones of Joseph coming out of Egypt at the time when Ron Gvili's remains were brought out of Gaza,
mhm,
so it's radically amazing and deeply moving to think about breath guiding us through the desert of the times we sometimes find ourselves in.
mhm. Um, yeah, it's I'd like to zero in a little bit, like just go a little deeper, like the bones, the atzamot of Joseph, right? Which you pointed out, the root also refers to the essence.
Mhm.
So in terms of the practice, I appreciated that you referenced bringing back the remains of Rangavili, so it's quite um, noteworthy, startling that that's the case this week. What do you make of that meaning, that the essence? What does that mean? What is the essence that we're bringing with us as we go on the journey, would you say?
So I think I did a less than optimal job of explaining that really the essence of Joseph is confidence in forward movement in the face
Mm-hmm.
of radical uncertainty.
Right.
It's really a lesson about emunah. And in this wildly eventful Torah portion, we read about emunah when Aaron and Hur help hold up Moses's arms during the battle against Amalek. And
Mm-hmm.
it said his hands remained faithful until the going down of the sun.
Mm-hmm.
And the root for that word in Hebrew is emunah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So we're really, in terms of our practice, if we are integrating and mindful of that part of the story, just zeroing in on that for now, we can do that with some other parts of that. This involves bringing the etzem of Joseph with us on the way. And what Joseph represents, as you said, is this quality of being able to move forward through radical uncertainty.
Mhm.
And his, as a character, he faces all kinds of trials and just keeps moving on, even when repeatedly the story seems like it's over, and he just
Right,
keeps going and keeps going and keeps going.
right.
Um, and and whether we can identify that as a quality with ourselves or of our ancestors that we're bringing with us in some way, that I'd say, Dayenu, that's enough. That's enough for one practice,
I
right?
think
But
that's
there's,
a,
but you
yeah,
said,
that,
but there's more. Like, and I don't, I'm not. I applaud you. It's like, because when you start looking at it, you say that, oh, and there's more, and there's more,
yeah,
right? So
yeah.
let's focus on the not being led the quote easy way, which is essentially like through Gaza into the land, right? Through, from Egypt through Sinai through Gaza. And God says, no, they're not ready for that. Going to lead them a roundabout way, as you said. And it struck me that he said, like, and they're going to have to go through nature. They need some time in nature, before they get to this place.
Right,
Right. So
right.
how do we translate that into our practice, would you say?
So I think you bring up a really important point, um, which is that first of all, these stories have so much material in them that it's hard to know, okay, so what do I do? And the second thing is that essence is both universally shared in these stories, but also each of us has our own essence. This is why we're part of a kahal, but also unique individuals. You know, um, I have a mug from a sardonic website called despair.com that has snowflakes on it, and it says, "Just remember that you are unique, just like everyone else." And so, what is unique about you is what you have to identify and bring with you. The humility you have to maintain is that is true of everyone else as well. So the identification of essence that we bring with us collectively is we should strive to be a Joseph-like essence, an
Mm,
ethical, confident, striving, but responsive and forgiving essence. The essence that we bring as individuals is something that it is our life path to include in our life's work, to understand the essence that we ourselves have to bring to this very contingent and sometimes perilous experience called life.
mm,
We are dual creatures in that way. Um, and there's always a dual essence to everything in Torah. Like I said, there's an internal and external correlate, but there's also an individual and collective correlate.
mm,
And these passages ask us to keep that in mind all the time, that I'm unique like everyone else, that I have to bring my essence, but I also have to bring Joseph's essence. I have to be um, um, loving like Rachel and forgiving and patient like Leah. All these dualities exist. I have to remember that I am a creature of nature like Esav and a creature of civilization like Jacob. All of these dualities remind us that we have to not see ourselves as the center of the universe, as both unique and as part of a kahal that has a collective mission.
Yeah, that does actually connect with yesterday's teaching by Rabbi Chloe Zelka, actually, where she brought the midrash about the walls of water being like mirrors, as taught by Serach Bat Asher in the midrash,
Mm-hmm.
and the disorientation or the sense that this is all about something larger than ourselves. A question is coming up in the chat. We have a couple of minutes, David, but the root for the word to journey or to travel, which you said also has this sense of trembling, nun samech ayin, and you pointed out it's used in reference to the Egyptians too, when they see what's going on in the sea and they turn around, and the translation here in Sfaria is flee. So it's interesting that the same root that can be used to describe forward motion and forward journeying can also be used as indicative of anxiety and fear and the instinct to flee. Both are both are happening at the same time. That's a very, again, Dayenu, like that would be very apt for the moment as well.
Yes. And there have been questions in the chat about where is the ayin from in the root. So when it says the Israelites are afraid, the root is nun vav ayin. Fleeing or escaping is nun vav samech. And both of these verb forms appear in this in this Torah portion. But to flee or escape, the root is nun vav samech, and it is to flee from before. So in this Torah portion, the Israelites flee from the Egyptians, and then the tables completely turn, and the Egyptians say we have to flee from before the Israelites because God is on their side.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And there's a deep resonance between those two and with the word in the Song of the Sea, I will enshrine him, anvehu, is nun vav he. So we're seeing a lot of grammatical closeness and similarity in some of the words that play a key role in this Torah portion. Some people put more store in this by others, but it's something that I noticed, that these roots contain etymological similarities and are guiding us to see things in a certain way.
Yeah. All right, David, we're at time. I as always, it's such a pleasure, and deeply appreciate what that end note about shorashim, about roots of Hebrew words and the connotations that they have, and just the fact that they're called roots. And by the way, friends, we're headed into Tu B'Shvat on Sunday night and Monday. Believe it or not, spring is here, or spring is coming, should say. It's a harbinger of hope that we really need right now. And also want to note that I will be away next Monday through Thursday, running a retreat for IJS for our clergy alumni. So, but you are in very good hands with wonderful guest hosts from the IJS faculty, and I'll be back here a week from today on Friday. So thanks so much to Dr. David Gottlieb, guiding us expertly as always, and to Harry Gilboa for holding us together, without which we would fly off into space, and to Audrey for sponsoring today's beautiful practice. And we wish everybody a sweet and restorative Shabbat and a meaningful Tu B'Shvat on Sunday night and Monday. May you find renewal and inspiration in the life and the renewal of the trees, which have so much Torah to teach us. So Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Be well. Be
Shabbat
safe.
shalom.